Hello, my friends. So, this is The Master Key by L.W. deLawerence. I'll read the preface, and then I'll get into the benefits of why this book is so important. In no branch of human knowledge has there been a more lively increase of the spirit of research during the past few years than in the study of psychology, concentration, and mental discipline. Many points of mental doctrine have been passing afresh through the crucible. Plain instruction is a popular cry, and in some directions a real requirement of the age. The requests for authentic lessons in thought control, mental discipline, and concentration have never before been so great as in recent years. Students seeking knowledge in this field have advanced with the fuller possibilities provided by the constant addition of reliable teachings and more data for comparative study. Thousands of students of concentration have received the reward of diligent, skillful, and devoted study. Scholars in psychology and mental discipline have specialized to so great an extent that many conclusions are less speculative than they were, while many more are thus available for arriving at a general judgment. And in some directions, at least, the time for drawing such conclusions and so making practical use of such specialized research seems to have come or to be close at hand. Many people, therefore, including the large mass of men and women employed in the many avenues of commercial life, as well as those suffering from mental maladies and bad mental habits, desire to have an accessible form of instruction that would throw a floodlight on these heretofore supposed esoteric studies that are of the living and vital interest to the faith, and at the same time practical questions by which is really denoted the application of faith in oneself to life and to the needs of the day. It thus seems an appropriate time for the issue of a treatise, which shall aim at presenting a general study for the student of the present application of concentration in various branches of the wide field which is included in the study of psychology and mental habits. This volume is designed to supply such work and seems to be well liked by men of known reputation as thinkers and scholars and teachers and divines who are, one and all, firm upholders of the law of concentration, faith, and mental discipline. It is an indisputable fact that about every scrap of information or instruction given out personally by books or the circulation of literature by schools of mental science have declared as the foundation of its success its association with some supernatural power, cult, or creed, proclaiming that the student's success was entirely dependent on his acceptance of some particular mystical doctrine or belief. The author desires it to be distinctly understood that the lessons contained herein have no conclusions of this nature, neither has he any connection with any creed or person who expresses these particular views, as he never felt that it came within the scope of the author's work, and in a book of this kind, to interfere with the personal views of the student regarding religion, creed, or cult. Shades of opinion and differences of judgment must exist if thought is not to be at a standstill, petrified in an unproductive fossil, but while neither the author nor of all his readers can be expected to agree with every point of view in the details of the discussions in all the various books published on the subject of New Thought, Christian Science, magnetism, and diversisms, and mental fads. He is convinced that the principles so conservatively enunciated in this volume are such as must conduce to the strengthening of the student's concentration and the faith in himself, as these are essential requisites in every avenue of human endeavor. The object of this work is to provide an introduction to the study of thought, as it has developed itself within the confines of practical psychology. Interest in concentration, mind, mental discipline, and intelligent treatment and moral management of mental maladies has in recent times become so pronounced and widespread that it is hoped that even amongst the various and excellent works which have appeared in response to that interest, room may perhaps be found for an attempt to present the subject in its logical sequence and in any such form as may be best to meet the wants and the interests of the students. So this book is one of the foundations that Napoleon Hill teaches on. And coming to a mental equilibrium, coming to the understanding that we must have our thoughts in right order, in our application, in correct staging. My views are similar to that. Some of my favorite works are Lesson 3, Doubt That Bars the Way. It's on page 24. We all know what glamour means, but it is one of the most difficult things conceivable to find it in ourselves. It is like turning the mind upon itself. One has read of persons trying to record the impressions made upon them after having used opium, a study in madness in which the victim portrays the changes in consciousness as he began to pass out of the realm of sanity, illustrates this difficultly. Edgar Allan Poe pictures the same idea in a wonderful manner. It is so different to set to work on a material which is outside the worker to working on the worker himself. We use our eyes to see what is around us and what is really outside them. If we could conceive of turning the eye on itself, not another person's eye, and subjecting it to a minute anatomical dissection, we should get some notion of the task. Yet we sharpen a knife by bringing it into contact with another, so that both blades were blunt before being brought together. They are no longer. Iron sharpens iron, in this case. The glamour of the mind is regarded by some as a wise provision of nature to hide from us our deficiencies and shortcomings from ourselves, to soften and assuage the pain which the discovery would awaken, but only the weak now would be ever content to accept such anodyne. Its action, like that of all anodynes, is to deaden, to stupefy, to stunt and dwarf, and therefore to lead to involution instead of evolution. Glamour may be necessary at certain stages in the growth of the ego, but it is decidedly not so when a man begins to take himself in hand, and the man who is so anxious to know how to concentrate does not usually rest there. It is a means to an end, and that end is the bringing forth of all the powers latent in man and using them to the fullest extent. The Old Man in the Sea. Doubt possesses in remarkable degree this quality of glamour. It is like the old man of the sea. In one sense, we carry it about on our backs, even when we know we have it, deluding ourselves with the idea that we must always bear the burden. But at a prior stage, the exercise is there, and we know it not. This constitutes the insidiousness of the thing. We really entertain this mental visitor, this alien doubt, without knowing it. We start a movement, so to speak, and as everyone knows, once a thing is set going, one never knows where it will stop. In fact, once begun, a thing acquires a momentum of its own. When we deal with forces, it is not like dealing with dead things. A stone thrown from the hand will travel until the force which it actuated it is spent, and it falls to the ground. It is mechanical. It lacks life, which force possesses. Even though a stone has life, only not sufficiently developed to the point where we find the case of a vital force, a force contains the elements of self-initiation. That is to say, it has potentialities, and it has, as it were, life behind it, so that when we start off, it has the faculty of going on through its own volition. We got some idea of this in the problem of perpetual motion, which has exercised the minds of the greatest thinkers in all ages. They have tried to create some device which, once set going, would continue to move for all eternity. As a result, some clever mechanical apparatuses have been invented, things which would wind themselves up when they had run down, showing the idea of something existing in the universe which pulsed with the primeval life. It does exist. The atom is the example of this. It is a vortex of perpetual force, of movement, which cannot be destroyed, but in which case may be altered as regards to direction. We know it can be split now. This book was written in 1914, so it was well before the atomic thing happened. As this is the practical bearing it has for us, so as long as the mind exists, it must work. True, we can cease thinking for brief spaces of time, but they are brief indeed. Whether we like it or not, the mind will go on functioning, and if we do not provide it with work, it will find work for itself. In this way, doubt will be accepted as something for the mind to pit itself against, and doubt bars the way to accomplishment. To seek to concentrate a mind in which doubt has a state is like trying to extract the maximum worth and brightness from a fire grate which is choked with the ashes that have piled up with rubbish as well. What avail is the best coal when put on such a fire? If we give the fire time, all the rubbish will probably be burnt up. But this will require too long a period, and we cannot get to the best of our fire whilst it is in this state. A mind which harbors doubt is a mind which is confused, and in this confusion is not always apparent to its possessor. You can only secure the fullest use of a power by it being unfettered by others, and only by the fullest use. By using 100% do you achieve anything worthwhile. When forces are divided, there is a leakage in power, and in one force neutralizes another. When in a big crowd of people, one half wants to go in just the opposite direction to what the other half is going. Many times the power is necessary in pushing through. This power is utterly thrown away. It leaves the man with less power for whatever purpose they may need. And if you would concentrate with ease, you must clarify the mind first. You must throw overboard much of what you deemed essential to its well-being. Doubt, for one thing, must be shown the door. The ructions created in a mind of this soul-destroying negative, which is really a reflection and has no solid existence, are gigantic and accounts for many people having such average minds. Many will find much in their mental makeup that is only a useless burden, and they should drop it. The student should dwell from time to time on the idea that because he thinks and he actually believes he can improve his power of concentration, he really can. And while engaged in clarifying the mind, will he do well to consider some of the laws of the mind, its mode of working, and its character of thought. So, I'm going to stop there for now. We must cultivate our minds. We must attune ourselves to showing doubt the door when it comes to what it is we have to offer, why it is we have to offer, and the need for offering it in such a way. There is a movement going on of self-education, a revolution of change that we must embrace and embody. So it is to this revolution I say, let the games begin, my friends, and let's change the world from the bullshit rhetoric of the past to bring something of the new future to the worlds of men.